It was amazing last night, Ashley. All the dings that were going on as all these people were jumping on the meeting. Ding, 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 ding. I can't hear you.
You're muted.
I'm so good about muting. Yeah, I know that beginning of the meeting was just constant, which was amazing. I don't think we've ever had a workshop that was attended quite like that. Maybe the restaurants groups that's been meeting has rivaled it, but we had 61 people there last night.
Yeah, that was amazing.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. I see all my commissioners here and a small group this morning, not as large as our 61 last night, but happy to have everyone here. So Leslie, can we get started with roll call, please?
Linda Calafiore.
Present.
Donna Jett.
Present.
Ellen Martin.
Present.
Don Meisick.
Present.
Judy Raffrezo.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public appearances. Anyone wanting to speak to anything that's not on our agenda this morning?
I will if no one else is ready.
Okay, Dale.
All right, real quickly, I'd like to give you an update on Carmel Cares activities that sort of touch on community engagement things. Bob Harari has assigned a city project manager to work with our Carmel Cares project managers to coordinate our activities and determine joint funding for those projects as they move into further phases involving infrastructure improvements, which is a pretty cool thing. So, for example, Cleve and I are working on several projects at Forest Theater, and that includes improvements to allow social distancing at the restrooms. We're also working with Yvonne on that. She's the one that sort of surfaced it, because if you've been there, those restrooms are not conducive to that. But we've got some good ideas, and we're going to move forward with them. We're also converting the fireplaces to gas, and I'm going to be working with a metal guy to make some new grates for them that are really beautiful. We're finalizing preparations for the restrooms and snack bar for reopening. They're going to paint the floors, and we're putting a new trellis or a valance over one of the roll-up doors. We've also sort of waterproofed it now. Shirley and Agnes are working on resurrecting some previous capital budgeting proposals for scenic landscaping improvements, and that's a really cool thing, because a lot of the paperwork for the Coastal Commission and other things was already done. They've just been sitting around for a few years just in hibernation. So we're going to try to get those going. All of that will turbocharge our efforts on about 10 different projects. And we've got more that we're talking to Bob about. So he's actually doing, I think, weekly meetings with his people to find out how they're moving forward on those projects. We're also making good progress at Devendorf, where Sarah has been assigned as our liaison. She's given us her plan for the northwest corner garden area. And her husband, Dan, who I ran into just when I was out and about the other day, he's working with us now, too. And he's really a smart guy and very talented. We've put in a stone border around the northwest area. And I just got an email from Sarah that she's located a crane to turn around the 9/11 memorial, place more large granite boulders in that area. I've been doing a survey, just everybody I meet, to find out who knows about that. It's even there. And it's like 70% of the people in town don't even know we have one. So when you walk into the park now, you're going to see it first thing. And she's got a beautiful garden that we're going to be building. We've got some other things going there too. But in the next 2 weeks, we're going to also install a Carmel-by-the-Sea serpent, or sea monster, however it gets called, in the Park Branch Library garden area, which is going to be a lot of fun. And Ashley and her team can coordinate with the kids naming it or whatever they want to do with it. Kathy's done a really good job on that. We're also excited to announce that last week we received our formal 501c3 recognition from the IRS. Took 4 months instead of the 6 to 12 because we turned in an expedite letter. And I never like to get letters from the IRS, but I almost cried when I got that one. It was pretty cool. So as COVID issues wind down, we'll now be able to expand our volunteer and our fundraising efforts in a more formal way. Finally, if any of you would like to attend one of our weekly public works status meetings, we have them every Friday at 10:30. I think it would be great for you to sort of see what goes on and maybe even contribute and help us come up with some things that might help you guys achieve your goals. So just email me, carmelcares1@gmail.com, and I'll send you an invite. Thanks a lot, guys.
Wow, you've been really busy. Thank you so much. That's a lot of wonderful things going on. So I'm excited.
Great.
Anyone else?
Yes, this is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nancy, please.
Great. So on behalf of Carmel Residents Association, we hosted a memorial, online memorial for Barbara Livingston on Sunday. And that link is now available on our website if anybody wanted to listen to that. It was a great, wonderful, warm, kind, happy, a little tearful occasionally, but it was a great session. And you learn a lot more about Barbara and her personal life, which we didn't necessarily get exposed to. So a remarkable lady, and of course we'll miss her desperately. But wanted to let you know that that was available. And then we also have two other things this week. We do have our online program Thursday at 5 p.m. It's Sam Morris, who is the founder of Pebble Beach. There we go. And by his son, Charles Osborne. That'll be at 5 p.m. And the link for that is on our homepage as well. So welcome anyone and everyone to listen to that history. Good insights there. And then we will also be have a table at the farmers market. So we're kind of signed up for a routine last Thursday of the month. CRA will be hosting the table and giving away the reusable shopping bags there, and welcome anyone to stop by and say hi, or grab a bag, whatever works for you. But look forward to meeting some folks in person again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nancy. And I would also like to commend you guys. You do such a great job of doing a summary of the city council meetings and putting that out there for everyone to read. I love it. It's a big benefit to everyone who can't sit there as many hours as you do. So thank you so much for that too.
Yeah, and that is available on the archives page for folks who aren't active members that would subscribe to it. But it's public information, and obviously it's a summary, so it's not exact verbatims of anything. It's just kind of a highlights of that, and I think it is real helpful. But of course, we welcome people to join. But thank you for the thank you. It's a work. It's definitely work, but for a good cause.
It's greatly appreciated. Okay, anyone else under public appearances? All right, then we will move on to announcements and from commissioners, and I will start with an announcement. I was notified yesterday afternoon that the Tour d'Elegance will not be stopping in Carmel-by-the-Sea. So I just wanted everybody to know that right off the bat, that it would have been almost impossible to control and maintain any distance. If you guys have ever been to any of those car events on Ocean Avenue, it's really hard. So they just decided to this year. So that's my only announcement. Anyone else have commissioners? No? Ashley, announcements. Ashley, you're muted.
Good at muting. Get a gold medal from Sebastian. The planning I was at the planning commission meeting 2 weeks ago for the Leadership Carmel, the Heart of Carmel project. The planning commission had very minimal feedback and blessed the project to move forward. And so I'll be working with Leadership Carmel on encroachment permits, finalizing locations. I don't imagine that the public locations won't change, but just making sure they get the private locations nailed down and the documentation for that, insurance, all of the unfun types of behind the scenes stuff we'll be working on this spring. So stay tuned for that, and they'll be doing their call out for artists as well and looking at placing hearts probably sometime in June. So thank you all for your work on that project, and I will be sending out the strategic plan, which will include the art policy so we can keep these things going forward. The Planning Commission did note that they were looking forward to more types of projects like this. So good job, everyone.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, our next item is to discuss the Forest Theater workshop last night, which we touched on as we were opening up this morning. 61 people. Ashley did an outstanding job. Leslie sent us all the letters that for people who couldn't attend last night's meeting. And the only thing I think so all of our commissioners have seen that. All of the commissioners attended last night. Ashley, I think, is going to sum up the surveys that we haven't seen, which was like 400 or something, I think you said. Incredible amount. So go ahead, Ashley.
Thanks, Judy. So yes, we did have 61 people there last night. I took probably about 10 or 15 pages of notes as we went along. One of the big things that came out that hasn't necessarily been coming out in the surveys is the impacts of the Children's Experimental Theater and classes for kids and families. So that hadn't really been prevalent. So I'm really glad we did the workshop. I mean, there's a reason why we do kind of like a two-pronged approach, or getting people to look at things different ways, because then we get kind of a fuller picture, 360-degree view of that. So that was interesting to hear last night. So let me do a quick recap. We had, our survey's open until tomorrow. I'll keep it open until the end of the day. I kind of want to hit the 400 mark, guys. We're at 391 responses to our survey, which is bananas. We're for a small village. I haven't seen such robust survey response ever. So I'm going to quickly run down what the questions were, and then what some of those responses were. So, it was a short survey. It was, there weren't a lot of questions, just like last night, and they're very similar to the questions that we took a look at last night. So one of the first questions, and this may seem obvious, but based on my experience with surveys, people will just fill out things just because. So I wanted to know if people had been to a performance, a film, a class, something at the Forest Theater. And 95% of the people who responded to the survey said that they had. The 4.1%, 4.1% of those people responded no, they hadn't. And that's important to know, because we want to know why they didn't attend. So, but 95%, that's pretty good. For all the people, 375 of the 391 that responded, 97% of those, 364, had attended a theatrical performance. 200 had attended a film. 63 had been to a drama class. And the data from there, I'm going to have to parse out and do some adding up. Lots of people filled in other. I see lots of typed in yoga classes. So yoga classes visually looks to be the second or the fourth after theatrical performance, film, and drama class. The next most attended thing at the Forest Theater. But people had been there for fundraising events, dance classes, had been performers themselves. Someone listed burlesque, which I would have loved to have seen that on the performance theater. The Monks event was listed. For the people who responded no, that small 4% of people, the majority of those were unable to attend due to scheduling conflict. The next most popular response was that people just didn't know about the Forest Theater. They weren't aware of the programs. And that did come up last night, which was, how do we make people more aware of the Forest Theater and what is happening there? That's something that came up as I was looking at the request for proposals. Each group that performs at the Forest Theater has their calendar of events, but there's no one central calendar, and there has never been, for the Forest Theater itself, which I thought was interesting. I'd never noticed that in the past before. It's always whoever's kind of managing it or running it, but the city hasn't done anything like that. So something to make note of for the new manager. And again, that did come up last night, to do better communication. And it's something this commission certainly has been working on. other responses for these were more specific, just had a baby, not here for most of the year, finally just moved back. So we'll work on that 4%, getting them into the theater once we reopen again. Now on to the next question, which was, how satisfied have you been with past activities at the Forest Theater? We had 380 responses to this question. The 74% of those 283 people gave the Forest Theater and their past activities five stars. So that's pretty good. 69 people, 18% gave a 4, and then it goes down from there. So pretty high ratings overall for what's been going on at the Forest Theater. And I will note that in the comments, and this is unusual, you guys, a lot of people will take your survey and answer your questions and hit the checkbox, but most people won't take the time to fill out if you give them a space for comments or other in a blank box, they won't do it. Out of 391 people who filled this survey out, when I asked, will you share why you gave that score, 347 people took the time to respond. One of those responses said nothing's perfect, so I assume that they gave a number 4. They seemed happy with it, but they didn't get it. So I'll be parsing my way through the 347 responses. For that question, overall, flipping through them, not going through and doing a detailed tally, one of the things that came out for that score, why people gave that score, is the feeling that, and this came out last night in the virtual workshop, it is the ambiance of the theater itself and that connection that it gives. It's the actual physical space itself. People mentioned, the performance might not have been that great, but I was there with my family and it was just a great experience to be there. Or, it was a fun night, but we were under the stars and this was cool. There were a lot of comments to that effect. So Forest Theater as place, I think, is very, very important. The performances are important as well because they're the catalyst for bringing everybody together, but also Forest Theater as place is very important in our community. The next question that I asked in the survey that we also talked about last night was performances, the number of performances at the theater and what's going on there. So I asked, I kind of did an open-ended style question for this. So the number of performances at the Forest Theater has been, and I gave 3 options plus a fill in the blank. The first one was not enough. There could be more stuff going on. The second was just right. And the third was too many. So kind of a 3 bears take on this and then let people fill in from there. So 67% of people who responded to these, this is 381 out of the 391 responses. 67% said there's not enough. There could be more stuff going on. 25% of people who responded said that it's just right. There's a right amount of things going on. And then the remaining 15% or so thought that there were, not that there were too many. They had too many was, let's see, I can see what the percentage on that was. Very small, tiny sliver, some very like 0.8% was a response to that. There were lots of other comments that I'll be parsing my way through. Like for instance, too many plays and perhaps not enough usage, depends on the type of activity, could be more diverse, great before COVID. So I think that people are open to, overall, people think that there could be more things going on. There could be a mix of things happening, but that theater is still, I'm seeing that in our responses, theater's primary use is the most popular. And that leads me into the next question, which is, in the future, what kinds of activities would you like to see at the theater? 389 responses. 373 of these said theater. That was the top response. After that, other performances, 292 people were down for those. 204. And this was, people could pick multiple things because I wanted to see, you know, you weren't just getting one choice. We weren't trying to prioritize one thing or the other. Classes and and then there were lots of other write-in things that I'll be looking for. The next most popular thing that was a write-in thing was music, concerts, music. Someone did pop in debate and public forum, which I like. That would be very theatrical there on the Forest Theater stage to see a council debate. But music and sing-alongs and concerts were the next most popular item as a possibility for the Forest Theater. And then the last thing that I asked of people taking the survey was just to share any other thoughts that people had regarding the use of Forest Theater. And again, this is impressive. We got, out of 391 people who started the survey, 257 people provided responses to that and shared their thoughts. Some of the responses were making recommendations about who should manage the theater and giving their thoughts about that. Overall, people wanted to be sure that the theater would continue on into the future. There were some people that seemed concerned that that wasn't the case, and I hope I made it clear last night that the only reason the theater is closed right now is because of COVID. The theater as place and the love for Carmel really came out with regards to the Forest Theater in these comments. And that is my report out. Like I said, I'm going to be tallying these and looking at these really in depth. I've been over the few weeks since we launched this going through and looking at them as they've come in, but I haven't done anything more scientific than just take the information in. So that's where we are. Are there any questions about what went on last night, about survey results received so far before we close the survey up tomorrow? Donna, I see your hand raised. You might be muted.
I've been volunteering over 20 years for many things, but you know, the only person was Linda who brought up a little bit of profitability and sustainability. And I assume the request, well, there's 4 issues. Everybody loves every performance, even the ones that aren't well attended, because I've attended those. But it's the neighbors, it's the parking, it's the calendar, and profitability. Those are the 4 issues. Everybody loves all the different variety, because I've been to so many of them. And of course, the profitability and the sustainability and the long-term commitment, again, depends on the city's commitment, because everybody wants it there. It's well known. And the 2 groups do a whole lot. They give out flyers to all the hotels to advertise. You would be surprised how many volunteers are advertising. And even the farmers market. People don't know we have a farmers market. That's in any small town. You sort of have to do your homework. And again, 1 calendar with 1 manager with 1 huge menu of what's going on all year would be amazing on our website, etc. So I think it was very successful because there's nobody wants it to go away. But again, the ticket price, nobody wants to pay $100 for a ticket. They want to pay $10. And that's like the Sunset. It's the same problem, is how much is the city willing to underwrite it for long-term, so that they can bring in programs around what the locals can afford. But thank you. It was very interesting, and the response, everybody loves it. It's not a downer in that. I mean, people don't want it to go away, but the 4 issues, which have been forever, those are the same 4 issues that have been here before any of us were here. Except people used to walk there, now they don't, because it's too dark to walk. So thank you.
Any other commissioner? Linda?
Oh yeah. Well, Donna touched on, sustainability. I believe, I'm not sure who made the comment, but twice I heard that the city shares in revenue. And, I didn't want to interrupt or dig into that last night, but I would be surprised if there's any revenue to share. I mean, could we, why was that statement made? That's one question. I mean, is that true or false? And the second thing is the city subsidizing the Forest Theater currently, and do they plan to in the future?
Excellent questions, Linda. So first, I'm going to take a stab at answering your first question. It was previously written into the contract with the user groups prior to Sunset Center taking over the management that there would be part of the concession fee. There'd be like a $1 concession fee. If I remember correctly, that would be allocated to the city for the upkeep of the Forest Theater. There's not a huge, we're not getting oh, now we've got, $15,000 that came. That's not how it has ever worked. And I think, Linda, you asked the question last night, which is a good question. I mean, this has come up for all of us. So the things that we're talking about, I'm going to incorporate into the RFP. In particular, the things that are challenges. Whoever walks into this, if they haven't done their homework and haven't watched these meetings and workshops, should. I hope they do. But with regards to the profitability of the Forest Theater, this has always been an issue, as Donna pointed out. And I saw this come through in emails. We've got the balance between profitability and raising the ticket prices. And, I think Sunset Center had some struggles with that and trying to do that. And people weren't happy with it, with the balance of historic user groups and, who's been there. So the community needs to decide what's more important. And I the council is very much aware of this. And so for this problem that has thus far been unsolvable in terms of Forest Theater, it's profitable. It's never going to be profitable unless you really make it very expensive and cost prohibitive to go there. One of the things we're looking from the people who are proposing to manage the theater is, what are your ideas? We know what we've tried as the city in the past. We know what we've tried to work out with user groups and managers in the past. What do you have? What has worked for your groups in the past? How do you think you can make this a viable theater? Or what do you need from the city in order to make this a viable theater? Rather than say, this is what we're going to give you, you need to make it work and give us a proposal. Does that make sense, Linda? Because it's just that this has been the past with the Forest Theater. Again, as Donna said, there's these four big things. It's the parking, it's the profitability, it's the noise level and working with the neighbors and making sure the neighbors are happy. And then, who's managing the theater. This has been a long-term thing. And I don't know if I shared it out with you guys, but one of the local history librarians, probably about 10 years ago, did write a comprehensive history of the Forest Theater that's very interesting about what the management of it has looked like since the beginning. And we're on kind of a 15 or 20 year cycle with it. We're finding a new manager.
Yeah, I just want to finish up just a few comments so then I can shut up. I think in the RFP, if you don't already have a space for how are they going to address community relations, I think that would be important. I think we all agree, the curfew and the noise, that's pretty easy to resolve. And those aren't going to go away. There are always going to be considerations. And I think we all know what we expect with that. The parking issue, I think, really needs some look and study, and I'm not suggesting we hire a consultant. I think there's some common sense, eyeballs to see where the problems are. Mountain View is definitely a problem, because why some people think that parking on the hill coming up from Forest and taking up a lane of traffic is an okay parking, when the Forest Theater is going on. As I live right around the corner, I have observed this many times. And then again, there's just some obvious places where trees are butted up to in the street and someone parks their car there. You can barely get one car through, let alone an emergency. And I think for the neighbors, if there was made some progress on that, it would go a long way to help tamp down those community relations. And again, I think that could be done informally with not a lot of money spent. It could be some temporary sign tied to trees, whatever. Yeah, thank you. And then I'll shut up.
I was just going to say, I'd say first, incredible outpouring of support. I was expecting potentially more of the local residents living around the theater to have a view last night towards more on the negative side. And that, I thought the local residents that have homes in that area did a great job last night speaking to, their desire to see this continue. And I think in the end, if you buy a home, next to a school, you're going to hear loud children all day, and you know it. And if you buy a home next to a theater, you're going to hear, the theater. But I think what has been done ahead of this gathering to determine curfew and operating, dates, that's already been figured out, it feels like. But sustainability is a massive issue, period. And if the group that comes in can't be creative enough to find organizations to utilize the theater throughout the day, I get it, sets are up for weeks, months at a time, people are practicing, but there are hours in the day, like we do with all the city venues, that we can find users to fill those spots and potentially pay for those spots and assist with revenue. It brings us closer to the community. And I just, the survey is a great example when you hear that, some of the respondents hadn't ever been there for anything but yoga. Well, there you go. Those are people that wouldn't have known it necessarily existed if they hadn't attended for yoga. There are church groups around town looking for outdoor meeting places. These are people that come from all parts of town, and it would be a way to expose them to this. There are plenty of other organizations that I think would love to utilize this space without needing to interfere with the sets or anything that's going on from a theatrical standpoint. But I think the group that comes in really needs to be able to manage local community groups or organizations or groups that want to use the facility away from community organizations. Maybe it's a wedding, whatever it is, people are finding ways to drive new profitability levers in their businesses. We all had to get creative in COVID, and people have done an amazing job around town doing that. The Forest Theater needs to do that going forward so that, it can thrive, because it's such a core part of this community. So I feel strongly about that. I think that this is a vitally important part of our culture, the bohemian culture of Carmel. But let's make sure that the group that comes in is not just an organization that is successful at running theatrical events, but is successful at fundraising, that has a strong fundraising base, that has a focus on ensuring the sustainability. I mean, you go on the Sunset Center website, they've been, overseeing management of this property. There's a one-line sentence in who we are that's kind of buried at the very bottom of the Sunset Center that says that they also oversee the magical Forest Theater that's been around as one of the longest outdoor theaters on the West Coast. It needs to be thought of as more of a crucial part of our community infrastructure, in my mind, in order for this to be sustainable going forward. And I thought there were some great suggestions of different ways to do that last night. There were some great suggestions from different groups as to, how do we allow organizations to know 2 years out that they're going to be on the schedule so that they can start planning for that. That's all stuff that's the minutia. That's not something that I have any expertise in, but whoever we pick, they need to be thinking about that to ensure the sustainability and success, and to allow other organizations to plan ahead and utilize the space throughout the days so that we see maximum usage, maximum exposure, and I'm not going to say profitability, but sustainability of this business venture.
Yeah, I have a comment. It didn't come up last night, and I didn't bring it up. The city does not own any sound or lighting equipment. So if you rent it, you have to bring your own, which is extremely expensive if anyone knows about sound equipment and lighting equipment to light the stage, et cetera, et cetera. And since the city years ago would not purchase any per se, or did not feel it was their responsibility, as in all of their sites except for Sunset, the group was formed, the Forest Theater Foundation, which I am a member of for 15, 20 years. And that group was formed with representatives from all three groups, the children, the guild, and the rep. I wasn't a rep from them. I was a citizen rep. And we have purchased over 25 years equipment, the sound and the lighting. And PAC Rep, in their generosity, stores it and maintains it. And our group has raised money to buy light bulbs and to buy microphones because there wasn't any. And because both groups use it, when they said take down, you have to understand why we do that. One group checks it out like you check out something from the library and brings it back. And then the second group checks it out and brings it back. Because if it's missing or broken, that group is responsible. So that's the reason that because we don't have a manager per se for the whole year. Forest Theater Foundation also worked with the two groups to get along, as there was a lot of animosity 20 years ago, if you read some of the history of it. And the groups do get along and agree. And we've had a wonderful relationship. And they keep saying, can you buy this or buy that? So consequently, you have to understand, with one manager, then they still do not, the city does not own this equipment. A nonprofit owns it. And to have somebody run it and raise money, they have to be a nonprofit, as Dale knows. So right away, if you hire a nonprofit, which is what the Sunset is. Sunset is a nonprofit. They could raise money to run it or just be used for that one pot, but they have a lot on their plate already. I don't blame Sunset. They have a big plate, and that's their core business. So there's a lot of other things that go into managing it. And if you decide whoever comes in has to bring their own equipment, or some kind of deal with the Forest Theater Foundation that owns equipment, and that won't last. It's very expensive, the soundboards and all that. So you have to write that into cost. Whoever runs it, if they acquire that stuff, but it's highly unlikely a nonprofit is going to give it to somebody. We've got thousands invested in that equipment. So that's just something we didn't bring. To me, it was like details. There was no point in bringing it up last night. But just so everyone is a little more aware of that information.
Thank you, Donna. Ellen, we haven't heard from you. Before Judy, I think you'll want to take it out to the public. But this is all good, and I'm going to have a lot to think about as I have a draft of the RFP kind of ready to go. So this is going to be very helpful for me as I work on that process. But Ellen.
Yes, thank you. And Ashley, again, you did a really great job in managing the meeting and with the surveys also. I'm new to the commission, and I don't even know what the budget is to run the Forest Theater. So I don't know what we would be asking of a group that would take it over. In the and what the complete relationship of the city is. Does the city help with, let's say, liability insurance or, things like that, upkeep of the grounds? So those are questions that I have. And then I noticed that, like, Colleen Bailey was on the call from the Jazz Festival. And, I think it would be really great if we could utilize the large events that are on the peninsula to maybe do some pre-programming there at the theater or post-programming and have events there. I know that First Night would love to do a concert there. And I think that there's other groups like First Night that would utilize the forest. And the Forest Theater Foundation Guild has really great equipment. Way back, we used to rent some of the lighting for New Year's Eve. So, sharing with other nonprofits is how we raise each other up. It is such a wonderful asset of the city. And I think just having, when you put that call for proposals out, that the organizations know what they're getting into, what has been the cost in the past, what, has the other groups faced that they would be taking on. So that's setting people up for success by knowing all the challenges in the past so that they can come to the table with solutions. So it is such a charming venue. And I moved to Carmel in 95. And every time any of my family or friends came, that was the first thing I looked at is what's playing at the Fortis Theater. Because besides going to the beach and walking downtown and shopping, it is just, it is so picturesque. It's just a wonderful, beautiful, unique site. And it's Carmel-by-the-Sea. That's all I have to add. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting process, putting this proposal out, because there is a balance between, yes, letting people know what they get into. And as a librarian and a researcher, I hope people do their research, because this is a unique village and it is out there. And that's why we have the pre-proposal walkthrough and the Q&A part of this as a proposal part, because it's so important for people to not only ask those hard questions, but to demonstrate their knowledge of fiscal responsibility and theater management by the asking of those questions. It's very much like the end part of a job interview where they ask you, do you have any questions for us? And when you say no, it's like, oh man, no, that's not the answer to that question. So it's very much important, but we do want to allow for some creativity, because otherwise we could keep ending up in a cycle where history keeps repeating itself with regards to the Fortis Theater. So keeping that request for proposals broad enough to allow for creativity and potential, the Fortis Theater is not a problem, but unique and creative solutions to things that have eluded us in the past. Sorry, Judy, I'll turn it back over to our chair.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. A lot of good ideas and comments and suggestions. And that is one thing that I heard from the Sunset Center is they didn't really know what they were getting into, maybe. And there were things that they needed to know. So I think, Ashley, you're doing a great job in setting this up so that whoever comes in to take it over will be aware of all the issues. So let's open this up to public comment now. I saw some new people come on. I saw Carolyn Hardy raise her hand earlier. Carolyn, did you want to say something?
I'm not sure if you can hear me, Judy. Can you?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity here to speak. I'm logging on late. One of the things that somebody asked if the city subsidized the Fortis Theater, and the answer was yes. And the contract with SCC gave them $20,000 a year to manage, and they collected the rent and the money that the tenants paid to SCC. The tenants no longer paid it to the city. And the city guaranteed SCC up to $25,000 income from those tenants. And if it didn't meet the $25,000, the city subsidized to make up for the difference, up to $25,000. That was part of the contract. And I believe the facility used to be, I think it had to go back into the facility. I don't think it went to the city. It went to SCC so they could use it on the facility, just as they do for Sunset Center. I think the city will always subsidize because it's such an important feature of our community. And as many of you know, I live right by the theater and have lived by the theater for 35 years. And it brings a vitality to the neighborhood that is welcome. And yes, sound had been a problem, and sometimes it's still a problem, but generally, as Stephen Moore said yesterday, technology has resolved some of those issues because they've gotten better. But it's also how they direct the sound. Parking is always an issue. We were looking at shuttles before. It's costly. And Sunset Center has the rights to using their own parking lot. So I'm not sure that running a shuttle up from Sunset Center to Forest Theater is a viable option. But as Stephen Moore said, they operate and are in the theater part of the time. They're in the theater all of the time, but not performing all the time. And so if they, and one thing that I had made a point in answering your survey was that hopefully a new management crew will be respective of the historic users. And that's what we had asked of Sunset Center too. And that's what made their job a little more difficult, was working around the historic users' schedules and trying to work in some other opportunities. But I think in your RFP, I think that's one thing you have to weigh as a commission. I think we all value our historic users there and give them a chance to thrive. I know one is on shaky legs, the other does very well. But maybe giving them a chance to survive there is something that it should be part of the RFP, and respecting historic use or users. That's a possibility that you might think about your request for proposal. And I don't think anybody can expect to make a lot of money on here, because the users need, as Stephen was saying, they need to break even, at least break even. And so they need a certain number of performances. And it's a little bit hard when they're, it takes them a month maybe to build sets. So that's not a time when the theater can be rented out to other entities. Once they're up and running, maybe you can squeeze in a performance here or there. But the city used to pay through the community activities the Sunday concerts. They're not all concerts, they were performances, and they were really delightful. And so people aren't going to come in there and do it for free all the time. So the city is going to have to, if they want to revitalize, or if maybe a new management team could revitalize Sunday or Saturday afternoon performances. But keep in mind, PAC Rep has Saturday afternoon matinees, Saturday evening performances, Sunday afternoon performances. So it's a real balancing act, trying to work in some other small activity in among, the theater schedules. So I just wanted to, give you some background information. And I think, Ashley, wasn't the Sunset Center's contract for Forest Theater 15 years? I think you put out 30, and I'm not sure why you said 30 years. So
it did. I had 30 in my head. It's 15 years with the option for a 15-year renewal.
Yes. And so that's
added the 15 together. Yes, thank you. And I clarified that, I hope, last time.
And so that in your RFP, that's something else you need to think about: time frame and proposal, and maybe building in some opportunity. Of course, some of these are negotiating tools that the council would implement, but it might be that you have a 3-year trial period and 5-year period or whatever, and then a renewal or something could be adjusted. But the reason Forest Theater went to Sunset Center management was because the city wanted to get out of the theater business. The city did not see it as a core service of providing that kind of entertainment, but they did see value in the theater, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. So I think with that, I'll close my public comment to you. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Carolyn. A lot of historical knowledge there, and we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in the public wishing to make comments? Wow, I'm surprised. I guess everyone was talked out from last night. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. This was just an informational, right, Ashley? So
this was, but thank you all for the recap, for the feedback, public comments, everything. I will be hunkering down with the draft that I started in preparation for this, so that I could be ready to finish this project up and get that proposal out there next Friday, so people can start thinking about managing the Forest Theater.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to our next item, receive updates and discuss the 2021 special events calendar for Carmel-by-the-Sea. I think we have 2 that are coming up, but go through them all, Ashley, and update us as to if anybody's dropped out or.
I don't have any information. Judy, you provided that update based on what you heard as a volunteer for the Tour de Elegance. So that's there. I'm still working with the Concours on the Avenue event organizers on whether the Tuesday event will move forward. And we're meeting every Tuesday, and we'll keep doing that to see what we can come up with regards to Car Week. I don't have any other information from outside organizers as of right now. And then I will let the ad hoc committee, John and Donna, take it away. You guys, I have your Word document up if you'd like me to share it out with everybody so everyone can see your ideas on the screen. I can do that. Yeah, okay. And we can run through those, and I have some thoughts about those, but let me present. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Yes?
We could, and now it's, there we go.
There we go. That means I can't see you guys. So I'll let you guys run through and just let me know when you want me to move down the screen.
Donna, you're on mute.
Or Ashley, could you read it out loud?
Sure. Yes, I will. Okay, so these were the ad hoc committee was on it. They sent me this email with their ideas for the next few months, running through the 4th of July. So Easter Sunday is April the 4th, and they're proposing to have a festive table at the farmer's market April the 1st, and give out plastic eggs with candy kisses for children. My one suggestion there would be to temper that, knowing diet restrictions and things with kids, with some sort of craft type of thing or Easter tattoo or something like that, so that there's a balance there. Mother's Day, again, being at the farmer's market, it's May the 6th. Mother's Day is May the 9th. Manned by volunteers. We'll do, of course, a Happy Mother's Day sign. Oops, went too far. Free carnations to all women. I would recommend that we work just like we did for the Pumpkins on Parade with one of our flower vendors, of which we have a few at the market on that, and see if we can do maybe a mix of all the different kinds of flowers from the vendors to give away. Yep. That would be my comment on that one. That was the thing that popped into my head. For Memorial Day, which is May the 31st, the farmer's market is the preceding May the 27th. A table manned by volunteers, and we would be handing out free U.S. flags. And I suggest that we also talk to the Post 512 Auxiliary, who will be placing our flags at the memorials. They will be at the market, I believe, Leslie, correct me if I'm wrong, not April the 1st, but April the 7th, the beginning of April. I can't remember what date we settled on. But they may want to join us at the market May 27th if they are available. I think that would be a good partnership. And then for the 4th of July, we of course will not be gathering. We'll be at the farmer's market and doing, goodness, yes, beads were one of the most popular things about our 4th of July event. 4th of July pinwheels, and we can start to decorate the town leading up to that during that week of preceding the 4th of July. And then also put up decoration on the city pole banners to celebrate the 4th of July holiday. That was something we talked about last year, and now we have the time to design the banners and get those up. And I do have some money left in the budget to support all of these things, so we should be good there. And then encouraging, as we've been doing, which has been very successful, all of our restaurants, homeowners, et cetera, to decorate, and we can get flags out. We had volunteers last time who helped decorate the park and the World War I memorial. So we can look at that again. And scrolling down, one of the, and I will note the top of this page here, the theme is Carmel celebrates red, white, and blue. One of the last things that they proposed was on 4th of July itself, having music. So a flatbed truck with a 5 to 8 piece live orchestra band, no speakers, just that, looking very patriotic, playing patriotic music like 76 trombones, and doing a little route through town at 12, 3:30, 5:30, and 7:30. My one concern, and I haven't checked it, and they keep changing, is there's lots of restrictions right now with live music. For instance, if you are playing, I think, a horn instrument, anything you blow into, you have to be 12 feet away from anybody if you're doing that. So that might cramp things if we're trying to drive around in a flatbed. But I like the idea of patriotic music. And I think that is it. Donna and John, I will turn it over to you both.
Well, let's say it was a pleasure to work with Donna, and she has some great ideas. Many of these were her fantastic ideas. And the one thing, when we talked about the 4th of July and doing the flags, you know, I know that the lights down the median were such a hit for the holidays. Our view was it would be fun to really make it quite festive, and in addition to those banners that are hanging from the light poles, also have uniform flags at quasi-uniform distances through the 5 medians, so that when you drive into town, you know, the center of the medians are very patriotic. You know, we thought about, oh, well, would we have volunteers do that or have the city do it? And again, I understand and agree that we want to have it look as well done as and intentioned as our businesses spend time on their businesses and the storefronts. So the hope would be that either through the city or with a couple of us, we design and ensure that the flags are laid out in a way that looks very professional, very appropriate, but, you know, really does focus your eye on, you know, the red, white, and blue going down the median for the center of the business district. So that was one thing I just trying to explain further our thought on that piece of the event.
Thank you, John. That helps. Yes, that helps envision what that would look like.
I thought about the music. We would not advertise the music. The music would be impromptu, because if you advertise it, people might be standing on corners waiting and gathering. This would be a random, within the city, core businesses, sort of like a surprise. So if you were on the street or sitting in a restaurant and all of a sudden you heard the music coming by the time you all kind of looked, it would be already gone. And I think there are musicians, you might need 2 sets of musicians and pay them. And I think getting a truck, because I had already inquired about that previously, with bunting on it. And Ashley's right about the trombone, but with keyboard and guitar music that is not amplified, I think you could play. And again, the Monterey Pops group might be available for one session. I was thinking maybe 2 groups, and if possible, of course, with city's stamp of approval and with budget. And again, John and I spent almost an hour, and we both had great ideas, and he was so easy to work with. So we had a good time. I liked his ideas, he liked mine. And so this was minimal what we figured we could come up with to celebrate these holidays. And yes, you know, we could give out, we said stickers, at 4th of July, our pinwheels, you know, and whatever you guys have got left over from the 2 years ago, we can use. So at the farmer's market. The farmer's market has turned out to be a real gem, and more people need to, including me, but I've been gone most Thursdays, to go there to make it even bigger and better. But it's the one place where you can give away pumpkins and flowers, and yes, I mean, I picked red flowers. The flowers can be any color, and carnations are the least expensive if you have to buy, because I had to buy 500 of them one time. So whatever flower or giveaway, and as you know, it's all patriotic with the red, white, and blue pinwheels, which kids like a lot. So it was a joy working with John. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe we could put like N95 on the end of the trumpet, and we'll be okay. Mask it up.
Make sure they're vaccinated, because all the old people are.
Yeah. But but I understand, and we're happy to work, you know, however we need to coordinate and work to think about creative solutions, we will.
Thank you, John and Donna. That was great. A lot of great ideas. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Any other commissioners? Linda.
Well, I love the idea of the flatbed truck as just in concept. And I think, you know, non-amplified and as a surprise, it's just a wonderful little bonus. I mean, decorating is, you know, one level of community activity, but I think that's just an enhanced attribute. Thank you for your hard work.
All right, I can open this up to the public.
I did see that Nancy put a comment in the comment box and said that it's disappeared. CRA, oh wait, there it is. Took a second. CRA, Donna should mention that the Women's Club is all spiffed up for Easter. Be sure to stop by. You guys have been doing a great job, Donna.
Yes, the Women's Club looks great. The windows are.
Oh, the Women's Club is fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to Nancy too. She's our lighting technician.
Okay, so what next steps for this will be, Donna and John, I will reach out to you, and the rest of the commission will look at the next meeting for parsing out who's going to be at which of these farmers. I think these are all great ideas. So we'll need some of you guys, just like we did for the lights campaign and the Pumpkins on Parade, where we had, you know, the couple weeks there, volunteers for who wants to be where, when, work with our market vendors on the Mother's Day flowers. And then Leslie and I will put our heads together in terms of budget for ordering some of the supplies, banners and signage and those types of things. And we'll just keep bringing you back updates. The quickest turnaround is going to be for Easter, though. That's coming up on the 1st of April. So
Ashley, you could send out a little doodle with all the dates, and we could all put in when we can come, and then you can decide.
Yes, you know, I love my
divide it up evenly.
Yes, excellent. Okay, I'll do that, Judy.
Okay. Anything else regarding, so like the Surfabout, you haven't heard back from them or any of these?
I haven't heard back from the Surfabout. So Surfabout and Concours on the Avenue right now are the ones that we have on our regular list that I'm still working with.
Okay.
Everybody else has self-canceled or is thinking about moving their event to the fall and has stated as such. But those are the two that are still being optimistic about future gatherings.
Okay, great. All right. Well, it looks like anyone have anything they'd like to add to our next agenda, which will be our normally held proper meeting. Ashley, where do we stand on, we were having groups come in and visit us, right? For a while.
We were, yeah.
And I was wondering, I don't know what is happening with the youth center right now, or some of these other, are they all up and running, or?
We can, yeah. So Leslie and I have that on our calendar for our regular meetings, you know, with our regular business. So last meeting, we had Carmel neighbors come partly because they've been there in the attending the meetings. So we can reach out to, we have our standing list. Carmel Foundation, I think would be good to hear from, and the Carmel Youth Center. Those two top groups, I think it would be great to know what is going on with them, if there's ways for us to partner with them moving forward. So Leslie and I will reach out to Youth Center and Carmel Foundation and see who we can get here. Donna, your hand?
Yeah.
My question is, so looking at our calendar, we have given out no permits for the rest of 2021, the city.
Correct, for special events.
Right, and for their own events, like home, my interest is in home crafters. That is highly unlikely, or
that I do not know. I don't know what is going to happen to us this fall. I don't know where we'll be with the vaccine. I don't know if there'll be a surge in cases or variants or any of that. I will tell you that I did keep some money budgeted for some of the fall events. So there are a couple of our fall events, Sandcastle Contest and Home Crafters, that we order, porta potties for. I mean, the costs for most of our events are very minimal. We didn't have events last year, and there's been no wear and tear on equipment. So we're in good standing right now. So it's pretty much a status quo budget, so we can keep supporting what we're doing now, which I think is good, but also some wiggle room if we return to normal. So for instance, I did keep some money in the event that we can proceed with our holiday ceremony, so that we have funds in there for sound amplification. And we always budget money for the decorating of the holiday tree and money for the park. So I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic, but I'm not quite sure. And we are getting questions from home crafters already. So we'll see there.
Thank you.
And John?
I was going to say, Judy, the youth center is not open right now, but they've come out with a schedule of a couple camps this summer, starting, I believe, June 7th. Registration starts on the 1st of April. And I think that it's like ages 5 through 14, split 5 to 10 in one camp, 10 to 14 in another. I think there's 3 or 4 sessions this summer, mostly focused on STEAM type topics. So that's what I know so far.
Thank you, John. So if I go to their website, I'll see where you can sign up for that? Or
I would hope so. I received an email, but I would hope that they've got that on the website as well. I would think so.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Any other commissioners would like to see on the next agenda?
I'll have be sending this week. I'll be sending out the strategic plan that we were looking at earlier this month, so that you guys can all start wordsmithing it, and we'll have that ready to go. I know you're so excited for the next meeting.
Thank you. All right. I think, Donna, you look like you were going to raise your hand. You're muted.
Are we going to continue to have the bi-weekly meetings? I'm asking, it's okay with me. I'm just asking Ashley if we're going to continue those through the the virus years, or what Ashley's point of view.
I think we should keep the meetings as we have them now, with the quick check-in for the special meeting. We've ended up needing them, and I think they've been good and helpful. So until such time as we don't need them. And I did check in with the city clerk about that, since I don't know that a commission's ever done anything like this before, and we're well within our bounds. We're still having our regular meeting. Our meetings are open to the public. There's no Brown Act violations, because that was my concern, because we've added in this special meeting, but there's absolutely no problems there. So unless it becomes too onerous for you all, we can stop and just go back to once a month. But I find it helpful as staff to have the bi-monthly meetings with all that we've got going on right now, despite COVID.
Yes, I think they've been very helpful, especially when we have stuff like the Forest Theater. We've had a lot of stuff going on. It's been amazing, so it's great. Yeah, and I like seeing everybody's happy, smiling face, because that's the only time I get to see them. All All right. So with that, we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.